Hello YouTube. Today I just wanted to show off a new iteration of Flamehand Moira. I've done a few level 80 Pyromancer builds, and I want to mix this one up ever so slightly. Basically, the major difference is instead of starting off as a Prophet and being pure Pyromancy, I start off as a Vagabond just to have a few extra points in strength and dexterity. The reason being, I like halberds. I like having access to a halberd. It's not a heavy stat investment to get access to a halberd, so that's what I wanted, and there we go. Pyromancy is fun, it's simple, there's not too many pyromancy incantations out there, unlike sorceries where there's so many, or the whole pool of faith incantations. There could be a lot to get stuck in. With pyromancies, you only have a few offensive spells, and so you select that few handful, usually it's like 3 to 5 depending on your kit, and you're just going for it. There are also only like 2 Ashes of War that are Pyromancy adjacent anyways, so, you know, there's only so many options you can pick from, so it's how you blend those few ingredients that really makes your Pyromancer. And as a consequence of that, sure, it can be fun to have the huge stat pool of faith, and then just dome people with Giant's Flame, take the giant fireball, and see the big damage numbers. That's fun, that's fine. However, I like a little more variety, so in this iteration I wanted access to a halberd if I needed one in a pinch. And as a result, we have a few more martial weapons we can make use of, and our armor is okay for the level. I actually really like this fashion. I doubt I'm the first person to come up with this fashion, so I'm not going to say it's mine, but I like it well enough. Now, there is a pitfall to be had when using fire as your primary damage type in PvP. In PvE, I'm sure it's fine. A Pyromancer build actually is a fun way to go through the game. It's very effective on a lot of stuff, and you just need to mix it up a little bit for the occasional boss that might be resistant to fire. In PvP, however, every time somebody levels up Vigor, I believe they get flat fire resistance, and then of course they'll get extra fire resistance on top of that with their armor. So fire truly is the most persecuted damage type in Elden Ring. Now there's a couple things you can do to offset this a smidgen. One, don't fight in water if you can help it. Sometimes you can't help it. That's down to you to hopefully control what you can in your PvP engagements. You can also make sure you have the fire damage physic mix-in, as well as the plus 10 physic mix-in if you really need to pump that damage up. If you're going to be at a slight disadvantage with your damage type, one way to try to overcome that is to just throw enough numbers at them that it doesn't matter. And look at that. That's pretty good damage. High 700s, low 800s at level 80? That's a lot of damage. That's pretty good. It can trivialize some fights, and it may not be too exciting, but it works. It's an option you can have. So I've talked about the physic mix-ins. You can also use Flame Grant Me Strength for a little extra fire damage on top of that. It also gives you some physical damage, which is excellent for your primary weapon, because your weapons have physical and fire. Even if you've infused them with Flame Art, you're going to have that split damage, and it's nice that it buffs both of those damage types a little bit. So you have all these options to get huge numbers and strive to overcome the resistances people are going to naturally have. It also means that anytime you're dealing with somebody who's just well equipped, their builds put together, sometimes your damage feels really bad. It's really inconsistent, especially at around level 80. I'd smack a Phantom and be like, oh, 200 damage, maybe 300 damage if the weapon's buffed and I'm all set and ready to go. And then sometimes I'd smack a friendly Phantom to the host, and I'd do like 110, which felt really bad even at level 80. It's like, ooh, it felt like I was losing out on half of my damage. So those are things to keep in mind. Now, I'm sure I've harped on this before, even if I don't quite remember, but one of the reasons I really like Pyromancies as a setup in Elden Ring is the pseudo combos you can get going. In the very opening sequence of the video, I showed off, Flaming Strike into Flaming Strike follow-up. So it would be L2, L2, R2, I believe. And that works, and especially if you can angle it, you can really scare people off with that setup. A lot of people, for some reason, despite how long the game's been out, they don't expect you to use the first part of Flaming Strike more than once, and it's a good little move. It doesn't need to hit the hardest, but it stops people in their tracks, which is good enough, and if they linger, you can capitalize on it. It's phenomenal. I love Flaming Strike. Everybody likes Flaming Strike. It's terribly good. And there's other things you can do as well. I believe you can, of course, if you hit somebody with, what is it called? It's not Catch Flame, it's the bigger one. I think it's called O-Flame. If you hit somebody with an O-Flame, it has substantial stagger or stun, whatever you want to call it, and you can combo that into almost anything else of your choice. It could be an R1 with a straight sword. It could be many of your Ashes of War on a lightweight weapon, you know? You could probably hit him with a double slash, or maybe you could hit him with a Flaming Strike. You could just lead into a Flaming Strike. You could hit people with all sorts of things because of the amount of stagger it has. It's a little hard to set up the O-Flame, of course. A turn and burn works alright, and it takes that spacing, but once you play with it more, when you do hit, even if you don't remember to capitalize with anything because you don't believe in yourself, O-Flame on its own hits so hard. It's my favorite. I wish I could hit it more often. I just need to play more. And I plan to play a little more soon. I have all this footage from about 2 months back, unfortunately, and it's only now that I'm throwing the video together and putting it up on YouTube, and I'm going back over this old footage, and I was just smiling to myself, because even though I'm not a great player, I had tremendous fun with a little setup like this. You have tricks up your sleeve. You have a ranged option that hits like a bus. You have a bunch of little nearby flame pyromancies to mess with people and do great damage. I forget what it's called, but it's the spell that does a bunch of flame pillars that come out of the ground. I think it's called Chaos Storm or something like that in one of the earlier Souls titles. I forget what it's called in this game, but it's the one where you slam the ground with your fire-imbued hands and pillars of fire come up from the ground. That's an excellent spell to use if any time you knock your foe flat on the ground, usually after a parry into a crit animation or into a backstab. While they're on the ground getting up... Oh, Burn O-Flame, right there. It's on screen. Burn O-Flame. That's a great one, and I don't even think you need to charge it. I think you just have it. If you think you have time to charge it, great. It's a fun little thing. Has a very specific use case, but you might surprise yourself, even as somebody who's just learning how to do the PvP. And now, watching this footage again, even though I recorded this footage about 2 months back, I am recalling the emotions that I felt at the time of this particular invasion. And I will say it was frustrating. And it's frustrating because these fellows had like 250, 280 in terms of the ping department, which is very difficult to play against, mostly because it's hard to whiff punish because they win trades, especially if their weapon's just straight up bigger than yours, because you'll hit somebody and it just won't go through. And I want you to pay attention to a few of the hits because it feels like either they don't connect or they connect way late to the point where they don't matter. This is also silly. Falling asleep midair. I know narcoleptic people in my life. I have never once seen them jump off the ground and fall asleep midair. That just hasn't happened yet. They fall asleep during other aspects, but that's not one of them. But yeah, they're throwing the sleep pots, they're coming after me. I'm trying to devise a battle plan and try to find out how to play smart, because playing against high ping is just something that I need to learn, and I haven't quite gotten it to click. Luckily, that guy didn't dodge. Able to nail him with 2 Giant's Flame take these, and now it's just me and the host. Host is going to be playing more defensive and absolutely utilizing that ping to his advantage. And my goodness, is it tough. And of course, I make stupid decisions here too. I'm not the brightest, especially when I get that in-game tunnel vision. A good thing to remind yourself, as often as it takes till it sticks, is that the curved greatsword has hit priority. What does this mean? It means that if you were to hit each other and try to trade, like what is going on screen, the curved greatsword is going to come out on top. It's going to win. It doesn't matter what the curved greatsword is up against, it just has that hit priority. I don't know the details of it, I just know it's true, and every time I try to trade with somebody with the curved greatsword, it's usually not worth it. There could be a small situation where it might be useful, like you have significantly more HP and they're almost dead, sure. But for the most part, if you're neck and neck, it's not worth the investment, it's not worth the HP. I was a little overconfident. Why? I had killed his host and gotten some flasks back. So, which reminds me of another trick you may want to have up your sleeve in the case that you're fighting somebody with really high ping. I was getting frustrated at this fella, just trying to find an inn. It's hard to find an inn on a curved greatsword. It is an excellent weapon class. I should use it more myself, and that's why I have these little serpent fangs. Even just standard infused on my caster, right? You can slather some extra grease on there to get the extra poison. There's one hit there. There's the heavy that hits twice, one more heavy, and bada bing. I think that's 4 hits. He's poisoned. I don't know which hit poisoned him. It could have been the 4th, could have been the 3rd. I don't know, but they were close enough together that now he is poisoned, which means I can get him on the back foot, and as long as I can keep harassing him, I don't need to harass him as fervently as I was before, he will be steadily losing HP. And this can be a miracle in instances where the ping does not align or that person just lives very far from you. But I also learned that, see, even though he had ping on his side and a curved greatsword, I was able to get some hits in. Thanks to the speed of the light rapier. Those light thrusting swords are just so terribly strong. I always feel slightly guilty when I pull them out. But it doesn't stop me from throwing them on the build. That's my character flaw. That's mine. That's something I get to deal with. That's something that keeps me up at night. Not really. I sleep like a baby. I've always been gifted with falling asleep quickly. But that's enough about me. What about you, dear viewer? Have you ever run a Pyromancy build before? Is there a Souls title where you think a Pyromancy build was the best, or maybe just the most fun? How do you run your Pyromancy build? Give me a few details, your gee-whiz factor for your Pyromancy build. I'd love to hear it. This setup is pseudo-inspired by the way Saint Riot runs his Pyromancy builds around level 80. And he tends to go pure faith and just use straight swords. He loves straight swords so much, it's a boon to have them. For me, it's not enough. Why? I'm bad. It's that simple. It's a skill issue. I've run just straight swords before, and don't get me wrong, I love me the straight sword, but I like switching it up every so often. Look, this poor guy. Oh, I think he went for a guard right after the parry. I don't know if he went for a second parry, but it just ended him right then and right there. And this duo could have been a problem because his Phantom was playing smart enough to give little old me, brainlet me, some problems. Now here's the use case for Burn O Flame. Buff yourself once, charge it up to full, and throw your foes in the air. It doesn't do the best damage, at least at my level with my stat spread, but it did enough to get them both. And get them both off of you. It's a mind game. Being thrown up the air doesn't feel nice. Seeing your health go down also isn't that nice. And so I was able to turn around that situation very quickly. Because, to be frank, this little entryway right before the Rykard boss fight, it's a kill box. Kill box meaning it's hard to escape and it is likely to get you killed. Small, confined spaces usually work to the host's advantage. Why? Because he has friends and they don't hit each other. So they can all overlap attacks and you just don't have spacing on your side in a cramped space. And that's one of the reasons why in this invasion, which this is my favorite invasion of the video, probably shouldn't have made it the last one, but oh well, I noticed it's a kill box down there. They go down there. If I go down there, I'm in trouble. They've killed the enemies down there, and the enemies on the promenade just outside usually aren't enough, not for a 3v1. You have a couple lightweight silver tiers, a couple semi-naked people, the silver tier mimics who just have like a Zweihander and maybe like a shield and a spear. Rather lightweight enemies. Nothing that's going to help you out too much. And a troll. Like, that's it. Not enough. And then once they're out, they're out. And if they just pace their fighting, they'll win every time. They'll kill all those mobs and it'll be a 1v3 and you can't escape because you have to get back up this ladder or use your Phantom Bloody Finger and hope that gets you out of there. But I love this little ladder exchange, how I get to control the ladder, because they're in the kill box. I don't want down there, but I'm annoying them, and they want me dead. They want me dead more than they want to complete whatever's going on in this area. So, to be fair, there's no boss in this area, so maybe they have to kill me one way or another. And so, if I can turn this 3v1 into several 1v1s, I'm going to win eventually. Or, I have a greater chance of winning. The odds shift a little more in my favor. And so that's why I like this exchange so much. This was, of course, at the end of my recording session, and when I get to the end of my recording sessions, that's usually when I get my better gameplay, because the rust is cleared away a little bit, and I'm just fresh on what my tools are. And when you hop builds as much as I do, sometimes you forget what your build is capable of. That's a me issue, that's an attention span issue. But still, look at that delicious damage. It's good looking. Oh, you should go watch that guy die one more time for me, because that is just mwah, love it, so good. And well, that's the video. But yeah, I plan to make more soon, so stay tuned. And look at this poor host. He gives it all up. What a shame. Don't be like him. Have a nice day.